For $30,000, I could have bought a fully restored low-mile twin-turbo 300ZX, but instead, I bought this one for $3,800. But there's one issue. It's scattered in pieces across my garage, and I have boxes full of more than $10,000 worth of parts sitting in my garage. And there's only one solution to that. We got to get right back to work on the motor. So today we're actually going to time the motor, which is one of the most frustrating jobs on this engine, and I'm going to show you why. In these two boxes, I have two new intake cam gears. These cars do have variable timing, and they're known to either leak oil or rattle and make noise. So I figured it was worth about the $500 I spent on these to make sure I don't have issues in the future. The crank gear and the cam both have a key on it, so that way you can align them perfectly, which will make sure when we line up the timing marks on the crank gear and the timing belt that we're not skipping any teeth. The bolts that hold these crank gears on are supposed to be torqued to 90 foot-pounds, but I'm not going to do that quite yet. I'm going to wait until I actually have the timing belt on to do that. In this box right here, I have a brand new 120,000 mile service and timing kit directly from Nissan. So even though all these parts are OEM and directly from Nissan, there are mistakes that are made in factories. So before we do anything else, we want to make sure that we count the teeth on the belt. That way we can ensure that the pistons and the valves are never locking lips. And to ensure that the belt was made properly, we want to make sure that there's 24 teeth in between the exhaust and intake on the passenger side, and that there's 45 teeth between the driver side and the passenger side, and then again 24 teeth between the intake and the exhaust on the driver side. And lastly, we want to make sure that there's 59 teeth between the exhaust on the driver side and the bottom crank pulley. Since the kit does come with new studs in either pulleys, I'm removing the old studs and replacing them with the ones from the kit and putting the new ones in place before we start routing the belt. These get torqued down to 40 foot-pounds, and then I'm going to set all of my crank gears using the timing marks to top dead center. Once I have everything at top dead center, I started off at the top, counted the teeth, and routed the belt to match up with the timing marks on the gears, making sure to loop it around the idler pulleys, and lastly, the tensioner. Now, the reason why this car has such a bad rap about being complicated to work on is because tensioning the belt is pretty much a trial and error process until you actually get it right. Now, people that do these all the time can learn some feel to get this right on the first or second try, but if you've never done this before, it's going to take you a few tries of doing the process over and over again until you land on just the right tension. And the crazy part is if you get it wrong or you mess up this process, it is an interference motor, so there's no second chances on this. To start off the tensioning process, you torque down the tensioner, and then you're going to start to turn over the engine. Once you turn over the engine, you're going to go back and loosen up the bolts that hold the tensioner in, and you're going to push the tensioner up 10 to 15 pounds. I don't know how to use my arm to gauge how much 10 to 15 pounds is, so again, it's just a guessing game until I can get the feel down. And then from there, you torque the tensioner back down, and you spin the motor over again. And you'll see that the tensioner piston will start to move. Then you let it rest for 5 minutes, and while you're waiting, you're just praying and hoping that the gap on the tensioner piston is exactly within spec. It took me 3 tries of doing this process, but I finally nailed it where I got it at exactly 4 millimeters. And so now I can move on with confidence that the engine is perfectly timed. Next up, we have the water pump. It did come with a gasket, but most people recommend using some gray RTV. So that's what I did here. And with this, you hand tighten the bolts, you wait an hour, and then you torque them down. And before I went any further, I made sure to put the cam angle sensor in, which goes on top of the driver's side exhaust cam. With all of that on, I can finally put on the bottom timing cover with my new dress-up hardware that I got from Z-Spec. And then I got to unboxing some of the nice parts that I got for this car. These are the AMS smoke timing covers. These go up front and center. The original ones I had were pretty beat up, and I felt like these added a nice look, especially with the dress-up hardware. With those in place, I went ahead and put in the thermostat, and now it was time to put in the front coolant pipes. These also use RTV. The top one slips into the 2 coolant bypass pipes, and then we torque it down. The bottom one comes directly out of where the thermostat goes, so I put that one in second and torque that one down as well. Moving back up top, I got new seals for the coil pack guides. So we put those on, and then we put them into the motor, and we went ahead and torqued down the bolts. As well as we're gonna put in our NGK spark plugs. As you can see, this engine is looking beautiful. I think it looks better than it did when it came out of the factory. We are waiting on a few more parts to finish this up, so we're gonna move on to the engine bay. Aside from more cleaning that needs to be done, we need to get this old crusty wiring harness out, and we need to pull this power steering rack. Before we dive back into this mess, I think it's best we go grab some lunch. Today's lunch is an Australian Wagyu New York strip. I'm just gonna hit it with a heavy coat of salt on both sides. And for me, the most important part of a steak is the sear. So I'm using my perfect sear here to make sure I get all the fat perfectly charred up and no bald spots. And as you can see, this is a steakhouse quality steak. We slice into it like butter, and it's perfect medium rare on the inside. That brings up today's sponsor, Perfect Sear. If you love making steaks or barbecuing in your backyard, you're gonna need one of these. It's great for lighting charcoal, searing up steaks, chicken, or whatever you put on the grill. So if you want to support the page, make sure you go to chefjoni.us.com, buy one, and keep these builds going. Now to get the steering rack out, we got to remove the tie rod ends, which includes removing the wheels. And then from there, I had my buddy Taylor from Detail Pro help me zip off the steering rack. And the last thing we had to do is we had to finagle it off of the steering column. Thankfully, when it finally let go, it missed Taylor's head. You good?
Yeah, that was a little heavier than I thought.
And since you do have to remove the dash to get the rest of the wiring harness out, we're just cutting it here. We'll solder it all back together when the time comes to put the motor back in. And then Taylor from Detail Pro and I got to work, starting off by pressure washing the entire bay and foaming it down with some degreaser. We used some detail brushes to help break some stuff up. But the real workhorse here was the steam cleaner. This thing ate through all the grease and grime in the engine bay. And it even helped us take off some of the old decals that were faded and too far gone to save. And after everything dried, we dressed it up a little bit, and it's looking incredible. I may still touch up a few spots with a paint match rattle can, but that's to be determined. Now I know a lot of you are probably wondering what's in this $10,000 pile of parts, so let's start going through it. Right next to that old automatic transmission is a brand new from Nissan 98 spec 5-speed manual transmission. And to go with it, we've got the full clutch and flywheel set from Jim Wolf. And right here we have some G5 turbos from Concept Z Performance. They start off with some brand new Garrett turbos, and they modify them not only to be bolt-on to the VG motor, but also to upgrade the components that come directly from Garrett. So we should have the reliability of stock turbos and the quick boost, but we're gonna get much more power out of them. And I haven't talked about this much, but we're aiming for about 500 horsepower on pump gas. I tried to stick to OEM on pretty much everything in that pile, so we're gonna have OEM drive shaft, we're gonna have OEM radiator. I did get upgraded intercoolers, and we're gonna have an upgraded exhaust. And anything that can be replaced, we're gonna replace with new. And if it can't be replaced, we're gonna go ahead and rebuild those components. I was also able to score a clutch and brake pedal from a manual so we can complete the swap. Obviously they're in rough shape, so we're gonna have to tune them up. And obviously we have a lot more that's gonna go into the interior and the exterior of this restoration. So if you wanna see the rest of the build, make sure that you subscribe, drop a like on the video, and I appreciate you guys watching. I'll see you guys next week.